Pat Schultz. Pat is a local longtime citizen with a long career in radio and broadcasting, as well as being a local business owner. We are honored and pleased to have such an enthusiastic conservative presence in our community to be moderating our event tonight. Patty Schultz.
Oftentimes people say I should be doing stand-up. Today I'll be doing sit-down, so hopefully you'll enjoy this. Thanks so much for coming and for being a part of the 2022 Republican House District 10B and Senate District 10 debate, hosted by our good friends at the Benton County GOP. Can everybody hear okay?
Yep.
All right. Wonderful. So let's take a second and we'll meet our candidates. I've asked each of them to give about a 30-second little blurb on themselves, so I'm going to, in no specific order, introduce them, and then if you'd like, the first person can stand and sit here, and the second person I'll introduce will be in the middle, and the last will be at the end because they didn't take a shower. So, I'm just kidding, that was me. All right, so anyway, once again, my name is Pat Eberts. I'm been living in our area, actually in St. Cloud, ever since 2003, and I have two family members with me. One of my sons, Patrick, is with me, and my daughter, Isabel. I have two other sons that are actually doing something productive tonight, working. So, not that this isn't productive, but we can, pretend we're actually making money. And so, anyway, I'm so happy to be here with you. I have almost a 40-year experience in broadcasting. I started at age 14, so it's been something I've had a pleasure to do for a lot of years. I've worked in the state of North Dakota, in Phoenix, in Los Angeles briefly, and then here in Minnesota for different radio stations, KDWB and KCLV, and currently KQRS in Minneapolis. And I have a local advertising agency called Pat Eberts Marketing, and I'm a proud homeowner and father of kids that go to school here, and all the things that concern you concern me, as well as it's important to have great representation. So our first candidate for the House of Representatives is John Ulrick of Hillman and Arm, running up for the Minnesota representative for District 10B. He's an Army officer who's served for 32 years, retiring as a Chief Warrant Officer number 4 on his 60th birthday, and completed 4 overseas combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. God bless him. His wife and he have raised a blended family of 10, currently run a 280-acre farm in Lakeland Township, Morrison County, holds a degree at an Oklahoma Technical College, completed 2 years at St. Cloud State University, completed the aviation program at Embry-Riddle Aeronautics Society University. He's also attended the University of South Dakota, majoring in political science, criminal justice after retiring from the Army, and he has a nice speaking voice. Welcome, if you will, to the stage, John Ulrick. I didn't, what did you say?
You said they have 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah. To talk?
Just give an opening statement.
Yeah, they will. I should, let me just explain some of the rules that were set up. So, and I think it's good for you guys to know as well. So, first of all, if you would please put away all your noisemakers. I know you brought a lot of those with you from New Year's Eve, but the audience is forbidden to participate in the debate. Noisemakers, bullhorns, whistles are prohibited and will be checked at the door, while enthusiastic applause is expected. Rude behavior by anybody will not be tolerated. Such behavior will be the result of removal from debate. You guys are all very polite folks, so I'm sure that won't be a problem. Interrupting speakers is forbidden. The candidate who interrupts his or her time will be reduced. The speaker will rotate. The individual who answers first will rotate to the bottom. In the speaking order, the order was selected at random. And what else to tell you? Each candidate has 2 minutes for opening statements. Each candidate has 1 minute to respond to the closing questions. Each speaker has a maximum time of 2 minutes to answer the questions Extra time may not be transferred to another candidate. Candidate has 10 seconds to start speaking after the question's been asked and can finish their sentence when time is up. A candidate mentioned, attacked by name, or challenged by another candidate will be given 1 minute to respond. Debate will be live streamed by the Benton County GOP member Facebook, and I think that's pretty clear. So we just want everybody to be respectful and kind, but also personally responsible for our thoughts and actions. So anyway, our next candidate, I'll bring them up, and then we'll give you guys all a chance to do this. And I'm happy to introduce Blake Paulson, is a lifetime Central Minnesota who lives right here in Foley and grew up working on his neighbor's livestock farm and serving in his local church and community. After graduating from high school in 2018, he attended the University of Minnesota, where he started and ran at the collegiate group for Trump on campus, and was elected to the university student government body by the only conservative member. Also during this time at the U of M, Blake began his full-time work for President Trump's campaign, eventually became the regional field director, where he oversaw campaign operations for all Central Minnesota to help prepare to work for all the rallies and events with the president and his family as they visited Minnesota. More recently, he worked at the Minnesota House of Representatives in St. Paul as a legislative assistant for Representative Shane Mecklin and Representative Matt Russell. I'm sure I just mispronounced their names, but that's okay. Welcome, if you will, Blake Paulson. Blake, do you want to take the middle spot? Is that okay?
He already had his stuff set up as a middle stuff.
Oh, did I? Okay, well, all right. One second, before you talk, we're going to introduce everybody else, and you'll all have your opportunities to do your introductions. Is that okay? Sure, why not, Pat? Thanks. Okay, so my microphone, my debate, my rules. Okay. And there's prizes afterwards if you're lucky. Next up is Isaac Schultz. Isaac is a fifth-generation resident of House District 10B who grew up on his family farm between Uppsala and Swanville. Isaac is a conservative champion who's been fighting alongside you in every major battle for our conservative values over the decade. This sounds like an ad. I should be paid for this. Isaac has 5 years of legislative experience as staff at the state capitol. Has spent the last 4 years district director for 8th District Congressman Pete Stauber. Isaac is an auctioneer who serves people by raising money for nonprofit organizations like pregnancy resource centers, private Christian schools, and law enforcement foundations across America. Welcome, Isaac Schultz. Wonderful. So, Blake, since you're on the end, you want to start?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Blake is going to opening. You got 2 minutes for opening statement. Take your time. It's a 4-hour show.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Blake Paulson, running to be your next state representative in District 10B. I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, and I'm a fighter. And before I go any further, and I know some of you have already heard this, but we have a new group of people all together tonight, so I want to just ask a question. Is anybody ready to finally turn Minnesota red this fall? Anybody? Yeah, I am too, and I'm running because I think our future is worth fighting for. People my generation need to have a Minnesota and America for generations to come that they can be proud of. As was stated, I grew up in a great community, a great church family, and had an awesome place to grow and develop some really strong and deep Christian conservative roots that I have not wavered from and I will not waver from as your state representative. Those roots were tested when I went down to the University of Minnesota, to the belly of the beast, right down in the middle of it, and it wasn't easy. We had pretty much everything against us. We had the students, we had the staff, and quite literally the mob at times. So I stood up against the mob, and I felt that I needed to go to the University of Minnesota, just like I feel I need to run for this office, to be a light in a dark place. And so there, we can stand up, and in those dark places, we can stand up and be an example and encourage people to be a part of and fight for the conservative cause. And I've done that. I did that starting the collegiate group for Trump at the University of Minnesota. Started my work while I was a full-time student, full-time for also President Trump at that time. And then since then, have had the opportunity to work down at the state capitol for our representative here in Foley, Representative Shane Mecklin, amongst others, where I got to do the hard work on behalf of the people of this district and here in Benton County. So when people needed help with an agency down at the Capitol, or one example that sticks out was a mom who during COVID had a single mom who had in-home daycare, could not get her unemployment benefits, and it wasn't her fault that her daycare system got shut down. She reached out to Representative Mecklen, and together he and I got her the help she needed. And that's the kind of thing and the kind of work that I hope to continue to do on behalf of all of you. And just know that together, when we have this red wave, oh, I didn't even see we had the time thing, sorry, Carol. But together this fall, we have the red wave, we can finally move the football down the field and do the things that you and I all care about, like getting photo ID for voting, like cutting taxes, and everything else that we agree on. So I'm asking for your support as we move forward and look forward to an awesome debate tonight. Thank you.
That might be the longest 2 minutes ever. We should probably take a second and thank you so much, Blake. Have a
I
seat.
didn't realize we had timekeepers down there.
That's
so I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's okay. No. We have an official timer. Her name is Carol Rupar. Let's hear it for Carol, everybody. You don't know that Carol owes me money. So the way this works is the timer will probably display a colored paper, indicate how much time is left. Orange means you have 30 seconds. Got it. Yellow means you have 15 seconds. And red means you must stop right now, okay? So with another 2 minutes on the clock, and do your best to keep it within 2 minutes. We're not Nazis here though, so take your time. Isaac Schultz, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you. Once again, my name is Isaac Schultz of Upsala, Minnesota. Excited to be in a room full of patriots, a room full of people who is tired of the leadership of Tim Walz. Let's change that this November. As was mentioned, my family is deeply rooted in this community. I was raised in this community, and I graduated from here, and I made my home here. This is what we call the best part of Minnesota, right here in central Minnesota. Growing up in Upsala, the values that we share, that we lived, are the values that we want to see enacted in our state government. And we have an immense opportunity. As I've traveled this district during the course of this campaign, I've had the chance to get to know many of you. And let me tell you, the number one issue this election is election integrity. The election in 2020 was stolen, and Steve Simon broke the law. And we are going to change that this November with all of your help. That's why we need to recruit election judges and have more people across the state, especially in Minneapolis and in St. Paul, standing up and ensuring that our elections are run fairly and rightly according to the law. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge task ahead of us, and I invite you to join us. I'm so excited to have you here, and welcome to the many guests in the crowd who maybe aren't delegates or alternates, but are here tonight because you want to hear the things that are happening in Minnesota that you can be a part of to help change the landscape and to stand up for a strong community. My family is a military family, my family is a farming family, but most importantly, my family is a Christian family. And I look forward to this debate tonight, and thank you so much for coming to spend some time with us.
Thank you very much, Isaac Schultz. And last but certainly not least, John Ulrick. Please share your 2 minutes.
I hope everybody can hear me okay. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and taking the time out of your busy schedules to be able to listen to us. I want to let you know that I am a Christian constitutionalist. I served our country for 32 years. I defended all of you in the war on terrorism. And that's a big part of my life. The reason I'm running for office is because I'm not done serving. I want to keep serving my country. And the best way to do that is to come up with laws that are not ambiguous. We don't let judges legislate from the bench. We have lower taxes. We try to take care of our health care, and we take care of our child protective services, because sometimes they're out of control. There's other things out there. We got a surplus that we need to deal with, and I'm trying to get people on board with that, and I think we need to give it back in tax relief. Once again, my name is John Ulrick. I'm not going to burn up all my time. I've got about 1 minute left, but I'm going to let it go because I'm waiting to answer the questions. Thank you.
I'll remind you, less is always more, so good for you. I said less is always more, so good for you.
That's what they say.
That's right, that's right. I've never learned that rule, by the way. So you guys are not getting paid by the word. All right, so we're going to start our debate right now, and I'm going to start first question, where we start with our first introduction. Blake, this is the first question to you, my friend. And you have 2 minutes to give your answer. And please, so we can get to as many views as possible, let's try and be as respectful of that time as we can. Blake, what are your 3 top priorities in order for this congressional district? And what are your 3 top concerns or priorities for the state of Minnesota? So locally and statewide. 3 and 3.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of them are similar. I think first of all that we need to restore our parental rights, health and parental rights. That's number 1 for this issue, especially with the healthcare system in this area. I know it's very important to many folks. I think we certainly need to restore faith in our election system. That's also a statewide issue. And second of all, as a product of the public school system and recently out of the University of Minnesota, I'm very, very passionate of getting politics out of the classroom. And those things are the top of the issue and top of mind here, but also statewide. I do know that in this area too, growing up and working on the farm, that agriculture is also very important, and that we need to rein in not only the governor's emergency powers, but also the powers of the many, many, many bureaucrats and agencies that exist in St. Paul. That's the DNR, the Department of Education. How about we just get rid of the Met Council and things like that? There's a lot of bureaucracy down there, and that affects and makes everybody's life harder, both locally and statewide.
Thank you. All right, same question for you, Isaac. Three priorities in this district and 3 statewide if you were to be an elected representative.
Very good. Number 1, election integrity. Number 2, environmental permitting reform. That has an immense impact in this community, and especially for our farmers and our business owners. And we have an immense opportunity, again, in this election cycle next year, and that is not only here locally, but for the state of Minnesota. We know that environmental permitting is one of the things that holds up businesses from investing in this state, creating jobs, or having businesses create jobs. And to what Blake said, the system, the bureaucracy in St. Paul is a huge, huge issue. But let me speak to this point in particular. Permitting reform, the most significant permitting reform in the last 40 years was passed in 2015 when I was at the state capitol. It happened with Republicans and Democrats, and I was in the room. And at that time, we removed the MPCA Citizen Board, and that's a perfect example of something that we should be doing to roll back these environmental regulations and other bureaucracies that stand in the way of jobs and growth. And then number 3, let's make Minnesota a competitive place to do business. And that means lowering taxes. And so those 3 things are my top priorities, in addition to a whole host of things that I've heard from many of you. Medical freedom is certainly one. Educational choice is another. But I want to boil down the statewide things to being election integrity, permitting reform, and lowering your taxes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, John, can we ask the same question of you? Your top 3 priorities in order for this congressional district, and your top 3 concerns or priorities for the state of Minnesota.
I'm kind of used to being last. My last name starts with a U. So all the time I was in school, that's what we did. I'm going to burn up some of my time with this because we're all talking about the same stuff. I honestly believe that the surplus that we have belongs to you. It needs to go back to you. It needs to come back in tax relief on sales tax. It'll generate revenue out there because it will stimulate the economy. It happens to be the old Ronald Reaganomics. We need to stimulate the economy and get that going. Second thing is we got to do something with our law enforcement. Law enforcement needs to have training dollars to adjust to the changes in society, and we need to have a governor and I won't have any influence on that other than one vote. But we need to have a governor that will call out the National Guard when they need to. Don't let cities burn down. Don't let the 3rd precinct burn down. And we need to keep our citizens safe. And the way to do that is to have training dollars for first responders. I happen to be a first responder. I go out on medical calls all the time. The other thing is training dollars for them, some for reserve officer units. Also maybe bring and have a part-time license, like a Class B license they used to have, so that we can fill in some of the gaps. And that would take care of a lot of that. But the big thing is we need to change with society. And the military does it all the time. They do it really efficiently. Enemy threat changes, they change the training scenario so that we can match what we need to work with out there. And the other thing is, just like Isaac and Blake would say, we need to lower taxes. Here's one thing that I found out the other day. Gotta wonder now. I got it just about done. 18-cent gas tax from the federal government, 40 cents for the state of Minnesota. California does it on a sliding scale with a percentage. So we need to open up our oil markets.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. All right. Our next question, we'll bounce back to you, Blake. This has to do with the surplus in the state of Minnesota. It's a hot button issue right now. So this question specifically for you, Blake. Governor Walz wants to refund roughly 20% of our $10 billion almost surplus to Minnesota's as Walz checks, and the rest in new spending plans, child care subsidies, paid public vacations, etc. What's your solution to the overtaxation and budget taxpayer surplus? You have 2 minutes.
Sure. First of all, instead of Walz checks, I wish you would send out Walz gas cards. I don't know about you, but I think that'd be a good idea. But certainly the budget surplus, we're talking about how we can, well, the Democrats, of course, want to spend it. Republicans generally tend to want to give it back in the form of long-term tax cuts. I think that's a good idea, and I think the first one we should start with is getting rid of the tax on Social Security income. We're one of like 5 or 6 states in the entire nation that still does that, and it's a double tax. I think we should also look at lowering middle-class income taxes. We have the money to do it, and it's really hard to pass and get through long-term tax cuts, and if Republicans are in power, we absolutely need to do that because that's going to be really hard for them to reverse going down the line. What that also, the $10 billion surplus is also just a signal of all of us being overtaxed. And so we're one of the top 10 most taxed states in the nation. I don't blame the people that are moving to South Dakota or down to Florida. I really don't blame them, especially our business community, which provides jobs and opportunities for everybody and develops a community for generations to come. People are talking about different ways of spending the money or different things you could do. I honestly think that, the fact that we have it is the bigger problem, and that government spending is something that's continued to balloon for a long, long, long time. And the surplus shows us that we have the money, we can get by, and we should not spend it, as of course the Democrats are talking about doing. Imagine that, Democrats spending other people's money. The other thing that is not often talked about is that people are talking about giving the money back or Walz checks being sent out. Well, who are they being sent out to? I can guarantee you it is not going to be the people that just paid into it. It's going to go to everybody. So if we're going to give the money back, it needs to go back to the people and the taxpayers that contributed to that, not everybody, a lot of people who already don't pay taxes. So that would be my solution, and I've got enough time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question, and your answer to the question. Appreciate that very much, Blake. Next up is another question regarding our economy, and this is to you, Isaac. Minnesotans are paying roughly $3,600 more for necessities, gas, home, heating, groceries, apartment home rental prices this year versus last year. That's $300 per month. What would you do specifically to help bring down 40-year record inflation in our state as a member of the House?
Thank you for the question. This is really important. The reason we're seeing inflation the way we are in America is too much government spending. whether that's at the state level or the federal level. Obviously, the COVID dollars that the federal government chose to spend are just wreaking havoc on our economy today. And so, as we approach what to do about inflation, the number one thing to do is to stop spending money, especially money you don't have. I'm going to kind of piggyback with the questions that were already asked here and say that that's your money, taxpayers' money. We need to give it back. It needs to be long-term tax relief that creates jobs and opportunity in Minnesota. Let's make Minnesota a great place to live, work, and raise a family. That's the opportunity that we have. But with inflation, stop spending money. In addition to that, there's a number of things that we can lighten the load for families, but government needs to look at their budgets through the eyes of a family budget. And we're getting crushed right now. We're getting crushed at the gas pump, we're getting crushed with the cost of, I was just yesterday looking at a whole list of things from milk to eggs to a whole host of the different things that have just increased costs for middle-class families, and that hits every single one of your pocketbooks. And government has created this mess, and we need to get the government out of the way.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Keeping in the realm of economy, next question is to you, John, Mr. Ulrick. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency wants to raise Minnesota carbon emission standards in cars and farm equipment from national standards of pollution to California's particularly strict, higher than everyone else's emission standards. It would put extreme hardship on car dealerships, manufacturers of internal combustion engines like Toro lawnmowers, gas-powered lawnmower tools like leaf blowers, chainsaws, and farm machinery. Are you in favor of this unelected committee of regulators exerting their power on private citizens and business owners in Minnesota by arbitrarily picking winners and losers? And how would you change that system that's in place right now?
Thanks for the question. You look at California standards for automobiles. They're trying to push electric cars. I happen to like electric cars because they're really, really fast. But that's not always the answer. The thing is if we was to impose this on our state right now, and we don't watch the regulations on it and work into it slow, it's going to hurt our economy, it's going to hurt the car dealerships. We're going to have inspection stations, it's going to be costing people to do all those things, and I totally oppose it. I think that we should be responsible, maybe work into it slow. It's just the same thing as with the green energy stuff and all these solar panels and wind jammers and all that kind of stuff, and electric cars. Let it work itself through. Have both, and then get something that's better. Because I think most people would like to have things that are better, but it would take some time to get into it. So I would totally oppose it. I would debate it, and I would try to get it squashed so that we don't have the California standards, because look at the problems that they have. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Blake, we're back to you. The next question is going to have to do with education. And the question is, I'd like you to take a moment, if you don't mind, Blake, to define the word woman. Then share if you believe critical race theory is a part of our public education system in Minnesota, either overtly or covertly. What's your opinion on the liberal agenda of making climate change theories and gender race sensitivity a bigger part of our students' curriculum than science, technology, reading, and mathematics?
Oh, this is a great one. And I'm going to answer it even though I'm not a biologist, all right? Well, it's pretty simple to me. It's XX and XY. I mean, there's two genders, and men can't have babies, by the way, either, in case you were wondering if that's questionable, because apparently that's a topic for debate as well. But trust me, I saw the CRT, the liberal agenda, the social emotional learning, and the environmental, crazy Green New Deal, everything they're shoving down our throats. And it's certainly a problem. And the big thing that we're now realizing, and has been in this community right across the road, is that the parents did not know this was happening. So if there was a silver lining to COVID, it was that parents saw what was going on in the classroom. And a lot of people started attending and paying attention to what was happening at their school board. And that is awesome, because during this time we've seen the power of those smaller local levels of government and the influence they really have. And so people often talk about like the history standards that have been delayed but have not been implemented yet. That's the Department of Education. And the legislature actually does not even vote on those standards. But with Republicans in control, we can change the makeup of the Department of Education. And in this area, you know, people talk about school choice. I'm certainly a supporter of school choice, but in this area, school choice really means homeschooling. That's the vast majority, and Benton County has a significantly higher percentage of homeschool families than anywhere else. And interestingly enough, I've had a lot of conversations with folks, and the state of Minnesota generally has about 4.2% of its school-age population that is in homeschooling. Anybody want to guess what that was in the last 2 years, what that jumped to? Over 11%. And so for homeschooling families, they don't want to take government money that has strings attached that then influences what they're being taught. They want to be left alone and teach their kids things that are actually going to matter and lead to a career, like how to fix your car, how to do your taxes, and the things that is certainly not being taught in school, where instead we're debating what a woman is. So I certainly think that topic should not be one that's debated. So I hope I answered it better than hopefully not our Supreme Court justice.
Thank you very much, Blake. On that same vein, this is for you, Isaac. Do you believe that critical race theory is a part of our public education covertly or overtly in the state of Minnesota? And are you in favor of school choice for K through 12 students in the state of Minnesota? And why?
Appreciate the questions. Is critical race theory in our schools? Yes. I think it happens both ways. I think it's intentional, and I think it's covert. I think it's both. And frankly, I also believe that it ties into Agenda 21. And I think that a lot of the regional cooperatives and entities that have too much power and aren't accountable to the people are putting this into our schools and impacting our kids. And there's a reason, like we heard, that so many people have chosen to homeschool or move to private schools. And let me just say, I'm a full supporter of parental choice in education and school choice. And we have a huge opportunity to make that the case here in Minnesota with Republican and conservative majorities and a Republican governor. So let's keep our eyes focused on the prize. This is a battle that I've been in personally. For the last decade of my life and more, I've been an auctioneer. And last week, this weekend, I'm going to spend my Saturday evening supporting private Christian education, helping them raise as much money as possible. I've helped raise, I think I was tallying it up, millions of dollars, about $2 to $3 million for private Christian education. It's because I believe it and I live it. And I believe more people in our community should have that choice, and the parents should be able to make that choice for their kids. Because let's just imagine a future generation of kids that understands the value of faith, the value of family, and the value of a loving community that we aren't seeing in our public schools. In addition to the fact that this is an opportunity that many families across this district are certainly taking advantage of. But this is an opportunity for us as Republicans to reach into Minneapolis and St. Paul and give hope to that minority family where that student might not have a father at home. And we can do that in Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, Isaac. I appreciate it. John, we're going to keep this topic alive because I think it's important to a lot of people. Do you believe and share the belief that critical race theory is a part of our public education, either covertly or overtly? And your opinion on the liberal agenda? And then, as an addendum, should biological males get to compete as females in girls-only sporting events, or vice versa?
I think he's picking on the old guy now. Critical race theory. I took a 4-month course with the military. It was called Cultural Diversity. I had to learn about other cultures when I was overseas, how to interact with them, what their religious beliefs were, how their culture is within their families and those types of things. One thing I learned from that was you don't discriminate against religion, race, gender, or creed. And I added age to it because I'm 66 years old, so don't discriminate. The thing is critical race theory does not fit the profile. And I do think it's overtly, and I think it's covertly in our schools, and it's polluting our children. And as far as education goes, I believe the money should follow the student to private schools. I think it should also follow the parents that are homeschooling their kids. Maybe to get back to the American way where dad's out working, making a living, and mom's at home taking care of everything else. Maybe there's funding that comes through, she's educating the kids, and it helps balance the economy in their house. And as far as, okay, got 48 seconds. As far as males competing, it's no question. It should not happen. I will tell you one thing, in the military we've got two standards. We've got the male standard for a PT test. Us guys have to run so much faster than the ladies do, and also the amount of push-ups and sit-ups and all that kind of stuff we have to do. Women are not built to be men, and men are not built to be women. And people will say I'm discriminating, but you know what? If you look back at God's word, you know what it says in there. Men don't be with men, women don't be with women. I'm getting off track here a little bit, but that's what I believe. And I think it should be outlawed. We shouldn't let that happen in our schools because it pollutes the younger ones. We need to build good leaders in our country. And the thing is that leaders inspire people to do good things. We have good Christian values in our schools. We have teaching those respect for home. We're going to have good citizens. So, thank you.
Thank you for your answer, John. How do you think these guys are doing so far, everybody? I want to give you a chance for a little bit of universal feedback. Next question is for you, Blake. And this is on the topic of public health. The number one cause of death for 18 to 45-year-old adults in America today, 18 to 45-year-old adults for Americans today, is fentanyl overdose. 110 Americans died over that drug overdose laced into other illegal drugs in the last 12 months. Killed more people than COVID, cancer, and car accidents. What could we do as a state to stop the murder of Minnesotans by illegal drugs produced in China and smuggled into America through Mexico? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, it'd be helpful if our president closed the border and actually was concerned about national security. That would be a good start. And the other thing, I know it doesn't exactly fit along, but just so you know that I am adamantly opposed against recreational marijuana. And so, anything that could potentially lead down a road to something like that, I think is a bad idea here in Minnesota. I had the opportunity to go on a ride along with the Mille Lacs County Sheriff's Office, and every single one of our calls that night was for an overdose. And that's, this community. It's not just a St. Paul, Minneapolis problem. It's not just a college kid problem. It's a problem right here in our community. And the one thing that I asked the sheriff's deputy that I was with, what would be helpful to them, because they have Narcan, they have all those resources to respond in that capacity, but what they don't have are the mental health services and assistive services that would help prevent those things from happening or to get those people into treatment. Because sending people to jail or having them do something else that's not actually helping them get over their problem is not the solution. We need to have a full circle solution to dealing with that issue. It's a very complicated one, it's a very tragic one, and so I just think that in this community where we're rural and medical places are they're experiencing a lot of different things right now, and I hope we get to discuss that too. But let's not lose sight of the day-to-day things that are happening, which are unfortunately overdoses and drug use right here in our backyards. And unfortunately, it's greater here in this community than you might think. So certainly committed to working with all the healthcare professionals and mental health services and seeing and pushing for more of that in this area, because those things often lack in rural communities. So.
Thank you for your answer, Blake. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. Isaac, your next question has to do with immigration. And the question is, does Minnesota have a responsibility to accept illegally migrated immigrants, people crossing the border without going through our laws? And what is our role as a state in accepting or rejecting immigrants forced into our state by the federal government?
Thank you for the question. That one's quite complex and obviously includes a ton from the federal government level. Joe Biden, he wants to send refugees of all kinds, including from places like Afghanistan, who haven't been through the system to check out if they're okay. He wants them to be sent all over America, keeps the border wide open, allows anybody to come across that border, and then uses our tax dollars to fly people across the country into communities just like ours. It's wrong. It should be stopped. And thank goodness for President Trump that he has helped change the dialogue on this. This has become a bipartisan issue of securing our border and bringing safety and security to our communities once again. As this relates to Minnesota, this has been a long, long battle, and it's something that is fought at the legislature all the time over illegal immigrant driver's licenses. I was at the state capitol for, as has been mentioned, 5 years. During that period of time, every single year, the left in Minnesota tries to give driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. If not for the backstop of the state Senate, and the Republicans there at the time, or the state House while I was there, we would have an even worse off situation here in Minnesota. And it's bad. It's really bad here in Minnesota. So part of your question was, what can we do locally to change this? What can we do in Minnesota? Hopefully with the Republican governor, we can bring a whole lot more stringent rules and regulations around who's allowed into our state. In addition, we can tell the federal government whether or not we are choosing to accept refugees, for example. This is an opportunity that we have. It's not going to happen unless we elect Republicans, right? And further, locally, county boards should be able to, and this is where it's kind of more of a federal issue that actually I'm working on today in my role with Congressman Stauber. County commissioners should be able to decide whether or not refugees are brought to their community. And there should be an up or down vote to opt in. The standard and the default should be not. But to opt in, there should be a vote, and it should be local control. And my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, Isaac. We appreciate it. John, your question is going to be back to the topic of public health, but not on illegal drug overdose, but COVID-19. COVID-19, John, infected 1.4 million Minnesotans during the pandemic from March 2020 until now, and is responsible for causing the deaths of 12,580 Minnesotans, according to the Minnesota Department of Health. So the question, John, is what did we get right as a state, and what did we get wrong?
Your mask mandates, I think, was a little bit out of line. The thing is the executive orders that Governor Walz put in place that went too long. If you go back and you study history, you study about the Spanish flu and during the First World War, that traveled around the world in 90 days. It lasted for about 3 years. Now we're talking about COVID starting to fizzle out now. You don't hear so much about it. They want to force people to take vaccines and stuff. I didn't get a vaccine. I had cancer this last winter, and you know what? I refused to get one, even though they told me to get one. Most of my friends that got vaccine wound up with some form of COVID. One guy that ran for office the first time I ran, he almost died. He was in a hospital for 21 days. Couldn't see his wife or his kids or anything. So I think they went overboard on it. You can't force it off on the people. It needs to be a people's choice. I got 4 pages of shot record. The thing is I'm tired of taking vaccines. I'm just not going to do it anymore. So I haven't had a flu shot in 5 years, and I'm not taking any other vaccines either. That anthrax shots that we got going into the Gulf War made a lot of us really, really sick. What was the rest of your question?
This is what you felt we got right, what we got wrong, regarding the COVID response during the pandemic?
I think you got it all wrong, but I sure wish I could have answered the last question. I got lots of answers for how to dry up the drug market.
Thank you for your answer. I think this is a topic that's been important enough for most of us, it affected all of us, so if I could, Blake, have you answer the same question. What did we get right, what did we get wrong in the pandemic?
Well, first of all, I think what you referenced, which one of the things that's in question, I think is wrong, are the numbers of what we're actually measuring and what happened during COVID. The data that we're making decisions off of was proven to be wrong. And that's a big issue. If we're not making informed decisions and everybody's talking about science, follow the science, well, let's actually follow the science. I had the opportunity to meet with a woman who talked about her career working as a nurse and had a niece or a daughter that is also looking to get into that field. The mom was granted her religious exemption, and her niece or daughter, I don't remember which one, was not working in the same facility and for the same provider. That's not science. And when our own healthcare workers in this community are laid off, we're forced to make that terrible decision, which nobody should ever have to make, about getting a vaccine or being laid off. And then they have traveling nurses and folks that do not have that same requirement and are not vaccinated and getting paid 4 times more an hour. That's also not science. And what's really scary is, well, we should just be asking the question about pretty much every one of these issues. What's incentivizing? People are going to do what the government and the people in power are incentivizing, and that is really scary. It's really scary too to see, I've worked a little bit with the group, MN Rights, Minnesotans for Health and Parental Rights, and they're tracking a number of bills this session, hoping, and I certainly would vote and support the ones that are allowing more religious exemptions, that are keeping at bay the Democrat attempts right now to lower the consent for vaccines down to age 12, to require mandatory vaccines for homeschoolers, and craziness, that again does not follow science. So I think we got a lot wrong because we're making decisions based off of data that is still being questioned and changed and is not correct today. Also, it was one size fits all under the governor's emergency powers, if I can just add that. As a legislator, as I hope to be, I would want to be in on those decisions. Not one size fits all where rural communities had 0 or very few COVID cases. In the cities, we did not have the same problem as those. People out here are not wearing their mask while walking their dogs like they are in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We're not the same, and we shouldn't be forced to make the same decisions.
Thank you very much. Isaac, same question for you. What did we get right, what did we get wrong in the pandemic the last 2 years in the state of Minnesota?
I don't think we got much right. The only thing that I think we got right was we had a little bit more work-life balance. People got to spend a little bit more time with their family, and that was good. The rest of it, I believe, was the radical socialist Democrat agenda seeking to take over our country. Full stop. Whether it was mask mandates, business closures, shutting down main streets, small businesses in rural Minnesota, had a front seat to this. As we all lived through it, but working in a congressional office, you have no idea the number of small businesses who were shuttered while Walmart was open. It was wrong. It was wrong then, and it will be wrong in the future if it ever happens again. And we need to elect conservative Republican leaders, especially to the governor's office, to ensure that we can change the law in Minnesota over emergency powers. And it should go before the voters and put it into the Constitution so it never happens again. As it relates to our healthcare workers, and so many, not just healthcare workers, but so many people, the mask mandates, the school closures, the business closures, it was wrong. The data, the science, apparently can change. And I don't have any idea how that can happen. But what was fascinating, having served the people of the 8th Congressional District, was for the first 5 months, there wasn't one COVID positive case in Hubbard County, in Park Rapids, until August. We shut down for months, then reopened. Then they told us we couldn't go anywhere. Then we had to wear masks. And the first case in Hubbard County didn't arrive until August. What? This is madness, and again, it was and it is the radical socialist Democrat agenda trying to fundamentally change our country.
Thank you, Isaac. Next question is to you, John, and something I feel might appreciate this. Public safety is a real serious Minnesota issue. We're at a 30-year high for violent crime in our state. Carjackings in the metro occur almost every day, up 500% from 2019 levels. So what is your plan to keep private citizens safe from crime and fix the police officer deficit that's occurred in law enforcement in cities and townships in the last 2 years? You have 2 minutes.
I think he's looking for a solution. Here's my idea. First of all, I'm going to start out with the drug trafficking. You have to dry up the market. We also have to train our children not to be involved with it. DARE program has been a really good program over the years. We need to change the attitude of society. I'm a second amender. I think we should have constitutional carry or stand your ground. You carjack my car, you're not going to get away. Those types of things. Once there is an example set and people have fear that if you do something wrong, you're going to get hurt, they will stop doing it. I guarantee you. When I was overseas, if there was fear that people were going to get harmed, you'd see people scatter like ants on the street. You drive down the road with an MRAP in there, you don't see nobody. But the ones I did see were the kids. The other thing is we have to make sure that we have an attorney general that will enforce the law. If we don't have somebody that has the police officers back, don't get me wrong, there's bad soldiers, there's bad police officers, but the percentage I think is pretty darn low. They get tired of all the rhetoric and all the stuff out there, people just giving them a hard time all the time. The thing is, we need to have training dollars for it. We need to train our society that's changing. We don't let cities burn down. Line the streets with MRAPs and put National Guard guys on each side of the street. Anybody throws a brick, throw them in jail. Once we set that example, we're going to have our crime rate starting to go down. We're letting people get away with things that they shouldn't. That's against the law. Thing is, enforcement. It's really hard. If the society won't back the police officers, how are they going to do their job? You go into court, you play all kinds of games with attorneys and those types of things, and believe me, there's all kinds of games that can be played. And then you have a Supreme Court Justice today. Oh, she's telling me to stop. Supreme Court Justice I've been watching. She don't have a clue. So we need to be very, very careful. Be vigilant.
Thank you, John. We're coming to almost the end of our debate. So if you are elected to the office that you are seeking, you'll be receiving $48,250 per year to do your job, and a per diem of $66 a day for transportation, food, and lodging during this session. Compliments of everybody in this building, along with a lot of power and authority. So you each have 60 seconds right now, starting with you, Blake, for your own campaign ad, and I mean exactly 60 seconds. Please summarize in the next minute why voters in your district should vote for you to be their representative in St. Paul.
Great. Well, my name is Blake Paulson. I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, and I'm a fighter, and I'm ready to take on the tough fights down in St. Paul. We have a radical socialist left that is going to stop at nothing to continue to strip away our freedoms. And we need somebody who's battle-tested and who has stood up for what he believes in to take on those fights and to not back down. We have a historic opportunity this fall to have a red wave and to have Republicans in control. The question then becomes, are we going to go on cruise control or set autopilot, or are we going to move the football down the field and get the things done that all of us have been waiting for and wanting to do forever? I'm the perfect combination. I can bring youth and a new perspective down to St. Paul, but I'm also not going to be swimming and drowning while I'm down there because I've had that opportunity and that experience. I have a great team of people that I'm ready to get to work with down there, and I'm going to be accountable to God Almighty first, and then to you, we the people of this district, nobody else. Thank you.
Very good, thank you very much. Up next, same question, same opportunity. Isaac Schultz, you have 60 seconds for your campaign commercial now. Summarize why voters in our district should vote for you to be their representative in St. Paul, please.
My name is Isaac Schultz, running to be your state representative, and I'm excited. Excited for the opportunity to make Minnesota a great place to live, work, play, and raise a family. We have that opportunity. We'll stand up for life. We'll stand up for the Second Amendment. We'll stand up for your medical freedom. And together, arm in arm, we'll share our story in central Minnesota. That is the opportunity. As I've had the chance to get to know many of you, there is such a story to be told. A story to be told about the faith that we hold dear, about the values that we fight for. I am so grateful to be in this fight with each and every one of you. I won't back down. I'm ready. I'm trusted. I'm tested. I've been in this arena for a dozen years, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, with each and every one of you. As we look forward, let's be prepared to be bold, conservatives, and champions for our way of life. My name is Isaac Schultz. I would be my honor to be your endorsed candidate for the State House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. We saved the best for last. John, what? I mean that, no difference to the other guys. 60 seconds, your own campaign ad now. Please summarize why voters in your district should vote for you to be their next representative in St. Paul.
All of my life I strive for integrity. I have to be a person of truth. I believe in civil liberties. I believe in justice. And I'm the only battle-proven person up here. It's a big part of my life. It's something that I will never, ever forget. But that same strength that I did when I was overseas, that's what I will take to St. Paul. I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. I can do it. I'm a team player. I can do it without being rude. Sometimes I have to be assertive. And I'm kind of introverted a little bit and analytical, but the thing is, I'll try to get my point across. But the biggest thing is I want input from you. You tell me what you want because I'll be working for you. I want to serve the state of Minnesota and the United States as I have all of my adult life. I actually served my country longer than most of the guys have been alive. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, those guys are smart. That's my compliment to you guys. I talked to Blake earlier tonight. He's a fantastic writer. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if everybody would please, by your applause, show your appreciation for the work tonight from Blake Paulson, John Ulrick, and Isaac Schultz for the House 10B district candidate for the State House of Representatives. Let's hear your applause.